Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I know it's been a while. I've been busy, caught up in other things, other events. You've seen some of the videos on this channel that I've been busy with. I've also been working on, engrossed in a project that I can't really tell you too much about right now, but I promise you, and especially you, this you will find very, very interesting. But more on that a bit later on. Also, I've been a little bit under the weather and stuff. You might detect that in my voice. But right now, it's time to do a ULEZ update. Quite a bit has happened since my last update. So let's get into it right after this.
A brown card guy. Brown card guy.
Right, so first up, let's talk about Project Detroit. Now, this was brought into the spotlight when a City Hall Conservative member from Bexley and Bromley, his name is Peter Fortune, he questioned Mayor Sadiq Khan about it. Peter Fortune, I have met him a couple of times, great guy, and he's always one of these guys that in those mayor's question time things, he does give Mayor Sadiq Khan quite a hard time, and rightly so. Surprisingly, when he brought this up, he's at one of these events, this question time thing, he said to Sadiq Khan, can you tell us about Project Detroit? And the surprising thing is that Mayor Sadiq Khan said that he was completely unaware of this project. And that's despite the fact that there are 97 staff members that are or apparently were working on Project Detroit. So what is Project Detroit? Well, according to the information that Peter had, it's essentially a prototype to develop, it's a project really, to develop a prototype for a distance-based journey estimation. Now, come on, that's just an elaborate way of saying paper mile. That's what that is, you know? Apparently, the project also goes on to say, I'm going to read this, we are building a new core technology platform for road user charging. So that's pretty clear there. That's not implicit, it's not, implied, that's clear. I'll start that again. We are building a new core technology platform for road user charging to replace the currently outsourced system for which the contract expires in 2026. It goes on to say the Detroit platform has the capability to be extended, and we will be looking to build the system flexibly so that other forms of charging based on distance, vehicle type, etc. could be catered for if a decision was made in future to do so. Wow, that's pretty clear. And it's pretty clear, if you needed any confirmation that paper mile is being considered and it is potentially being planned for 2026, 2037, and also it's pretty clear, and think about this, and also tell all your friends and all your family and anybody that's been saying, oh, well, I've got a compliant car, ULEZ doesn't concern me, I'm not going to be charged for driving my car, that they don't believe that there is such a thing as a war on the motorist. Well, this confirms it, because when you say things like it's a charging based on distance, on vehicle type, that means that everybody is going to be targeted. Classics, modern cars, electric cars, everybody will be targeted by this. So be aware of this.
Brown card guy.
Right, the second thing we're going to talk about is misleading advertising. Now, this is a bit controversial. So last month, a leaked report suggested that TfL may have misled the public about the benefits of ULEZ. Surprise, surprise. This relates, of course, to all those very annoying radio and TV adverts from the mayor's office that were basically everywhere, leading right up to the ULEZ expansion that happened, obviously, on August the 29th of this year, 2023. Now, of course, there were several complaints. Now, I know people I saw on Facebook groups and stuff that people were officially logging complaints with the ASA, which is the Advertising Standards Authority, to say that this was false advertising. Now, apparently it is investigating this, and according to one newspaper, in a leaked draft of the report they seem to have got hold of, and ASA, the report from ASA criticizes misleading, that's in inverted commas, misleading claims about reducing levels of nitrogen dioxide, NO2, in TfL's radio and newspaper advertisements. And recommendations, this is again in the leaked draft report, state that 2 complaints about 2 radio adverts and 1 in a newspaper, although they were printed as well, are to be upheld. That's what this apparently this report said. Following the ASA's investigation, it found the 2 adverts were misleading because they did not clarify, that's again in quote marks, claims that NO2 levels, nitrogen dioxide levels, had reduced by nearly half. So this is what the ads claimed as a result of ULEZ. And these were actually based on estimates or model scenarios, and they weren't actual figures. I mean, there's so much about ULEZ that you can say that, right? I mean, let's not get into details. I've covered in other videos. You can also check it out on my dossier on ULEZ on browncarguy.com. It's the top article there. I've broken down all of the stuff that we've been fed, and the fact that so much of it is really just made up numbers. You know, they're just extrapolated, estimated, calculated numbers that aren't actually real. And that includes the deaths. In fact, the second complaint set to be upheld found an advertisement that claimed deaths from pollution were higher in outer London, failed to make it clear that the area had actually already been covered by ULEZ. So we're talking about, when the previous expansion that happened to North and South Circular Roads. Now, TfL, Transport for London, is obviously challenging the report, but to say that it raises questions about the integrity of the advertising, I would say is putting it mildly. Plus, they really were very annoying adverts, and that alone should be grounds for a complaint. They did my head in. I'm sure they did your head in as well.
Brown car guy.
Right, so the other aspect, of course, there was some news out about how much money TfL made from the ULEZ expansion in the first week. It was a whopping £5.3 million. Oh yeah, that was in the first week after the ULEZ expansion. That's the current expansion that happened on August 29. This is from the £12.50 daily charge. Now, as a classic car owner, as you can see myself, I also felt that pinch every time I take this 1989 BMW 325i out. This is not compliant, and it costs me as well. Now, if you think about the 5.3 million, honestly, you would say, well, it doesn't really sound like that much. But the thing is, it does serve to confirm that ULEZ is about the money. It's not really about the air quality, certainly in outer London. I've never contested the effectiveness of ULEZ certainly in central London, and maybe to an extent in inner London as well. But in outer London, you saw my videos, I hope, or if you haven't, they're on the channel, where I went around with a meter and I measured the air quality. This was pre the introduction of the expansion, and I didn't really see any difference in the ULEZ area and the non-ULEZ areas in London in terms of the air quality. In fact, the air quality in the non-ULEZ areas was actually better from what I could understand. And when you look at the AQI index that I was getting on my measuring device, remember the AQI is calibrated from 0 up to 500, and 500 is like, you need a hazmat suit, and we've actually had that in Delhi. I think they had numbers as high as 485 in terms of pollution. Over here in the outer London area, I was getting figures of 5. Not 50, not 500, 5, not 15 even, 5. And then you think, well, how can you actually improve on 5? I mean, how? I get more than that at home. So this basically confirms that this was about money, wasn't about the air quality, and it also dispels another claim from the mayor's office that ULEZ has encouraged more people to move to newer, allegedly cleaner cars, because they've been saying that, well, since ULEZ has been introduced, the number of vehicles that are compliant, that are seen, this is what they've said, driving in London, are now 95% of them are now compliant. Come on, that is just not true. I mean, I can just go, looking around my car park here. I can just look here. I can go out onto the road. I just went out for a drive. You look around and you can see the number of non-compliant cars, and the compliant cars is nowhere near 95%. I mean, what's happening really is that people are just not using their cars. I mean, they still got them, but they're not using them. Now think about that for a moment. These are cars that they've bought, that they've paid for, that they might still be paying for, that they paid tax on, they paid insurance for, and now I mean, the £12.50 literally is the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back. Because once you've paid all of that, you've got the car, and now you have to pay every time you go out. And it's, for some people, it's just too much. And I see so many cars are just parked up. So it isn't that people have upgraded or changed. They've still got their cars. They just don't know what to do because they can't afford to change into a newer car. It's just a nightmare for so many people. So the question to be asked also about this claim about the 95%, because as they did before, as it became apparent when they said that, you know, what was the number of compliant cars, the question is that where were they looking? Where were the cameras that they were using? And if they basically taken the data from cameras that are in central London, well, mostly cars in central London are already the newer generation of cars anyway, you know, even mostly in the previous expansion within inner London. So, you know, you can easily skew those figures to say, oh, look, 95% of cars are now compliant. It's like, yeah, really? I mean, just look around. I mean, come on, that doesn't make any sense. And in fact, also, the sheer number of charges that are happening now also confirms that it couldn't be 95% cars are compliant. Because if you think about it, just in that first week, right, driving in London, the charges for driving in London increased by 300,000 in the first week. So there's a number of charges that happened. There was 300,000. So this is between 29th of August and 4th of September, right? 300,000 in that first week. That's the increase. The actual number of charges was 425,814. So well over 400,000. And the previous week, before the expansion, the number of charges, 141,029. Wow. So yeah, so 300 additional people got charges they had to pay, and this proves that people haven't changed cars. They're just having to pay, or they're just, you know, the cars are just sitting around rotting, really, really sadly. I have to pay every time I go out, but I will not let this car rot.
Brown car guy.
So the other thing that's happened recently is that there's been this bill, this attempt at overturning ULEZ. It's another bit of hopeful news, I would say, and it is from Gareth Johnson, who is the Conservative MP for Dartford in Kent. Now, he's presented a private member's bill in Parliament aiming to give the government the power to overturn the ULEZ expansion. Now, he labels the expansion a cruel form of taxation. Quite right, Gareth. The bill has been presented. It has been presented, but the second reading will be on the 22nd of March next year, 2024. Now, the bill, like I said, it aims to amend the Greater London Authority Act 1999, which would give the Secretary of State power to review and overturn decisions made by the Mayor of London relating to transport and to air quality. It's quite specific in what he's asking for, so it can only relate to ULEZ, really. Now, Gareth Johnson said he hoped that this bill would alter the law next summer if it was unopposed. Now, the thing is that by then we'll either have a completely new mayor that is very likely going to turn back ULEZ and basically put it back to where it was before, because we have people like Susan from the Conservatives and Howard from Reform have both promised to do that. Actually, Howard is promising to remove it entirely. So if either of them come in, they're going to remove it anyway. Or if Sadiq Khan wins a third term, which very sadly, I have to say, does look like it's probably going to happen, because he does appear to be way ahead in the polls. But if he does win an incredible third term, then you can imagine that is going to empower him significantly. I mean, and his clout and his stock is going to go way up, you know. And to be honest, then ULEZ expansion will be completely immovable, and anything he decides to do after that, such as going back to the first story that we talked about, the Project Detroit, it's going to be unstoppable. Because, I mean, really, you know, if he's elected for a third time, then he'll say that, well, I've got the people's mandate to do whatever I want. And then sadly, that'll be that. So this bill comes out in summer. By that time, I think, you know, even if whether or not it happens, I think it might be too late. And of course, it does need support from other MPs as well. In fact, you should contact your MPs and say that, tell them that you want them to support this bill when it comes out, when it goes for the second reading on 22nd of March. But if we're waiting for this to happen by the summer, I mean, fingers crossed. Let's keep our fingers crossed. You never know. Anything can happen, right? But yeah, clutching at straws, I hope not. I hope not. Let's see how it goes. I'll keep an eye on that and see how it progresses.
Brown car guy.
Right, so finally, this is a bit more of a concerning bit of news, and this just happened this week. A ULEZ camera in Sidcup, South East London, was destroyed by an improvised explosive device. So this is normally what they refer to as an IED. Now, this is not cool. This is not cool at all. You know, one thing that has been absolutely brilliant about the ULEZ protests, and I've covered a fair few, as you know, you can see them on my channel, is that, you know, all the protesters, in all of these cases, all the events that I've attended, all the people that have attended them, the organizers down to the actual protesters, everybody has been kind, friendly, courteous, considerate. Roads have not been blocked. People have not been inconvenienced. I remember one protest I covered, it was just outside the BBC. It was raining down. It was chucking down all day long. And there's a church nearby, and most of the protesters are sort of gathered under the shelter of the church to stay out of the rain. However, when we realized that there was a wedding that was going to come through there, everybody crossed over to the other side, and pretty much they all stood in the rain to make sure that that wedding would not be disturbed, and it would go ahead. They did not want to ruin somebody's very special day, clearly. So, you know, the protest, you know, it's in complete contrast to say something like Just Stop Oil, what they do, which is all about disruption and damage and inconvenience. That's literally what those protests are about. So the anti-ULEZ expansion protests have been in complete contrast. But this represents a very dangerous, disturbing and worrying escalation, because this camera explosion resulted in damage to vehicles and to property. It nearly injured a passerby. If you've seen the CCTV footage that was shown on the news, I won't put it here, but it was on the news, there was somebody passing by as the explosion happened. I think they were out walking their dog, and also it sadly traumatized a young family because shrapnel damaged a child's bedroom. This is not good. This should not be happening. And, you know, such actions, they not only harm property and endanger lives, but they also potentially damage the reputation of those of us who are legitimately protesting against the ULEZ expansion. And God forbid, if anybody had got hurt in this, the consequences you don't even bear thinking about, you know. To be fair, you've got to wonder, because the weird thing about this particular incident, apparently, from my reading of the BBC report, maybe I've misunderstood it. If I have, correct me in the comments below. But from what I've understood, the camera itself was actually blown up 90 minutes after it had already been hacked down. So it had already been disabled. It was already out of action. So it wasn't necessary to go and blow the thing up, which is completely over the top anyway. And it does sort of make you question as to what were the motives behind doing something like that, because it wouldn't be a stretch to imagine a scenario where somebody or some people might want to discredit the anti-ULEZ movement. I'll just leave that thought out there, but I will urge anybody, all of us that are opposed to the ULEZ expansion, to continue on the path of peaceful protest, and to ensure that there is never any potential for damage to property or injury to any persons, whether ourselves or anybody else. This would be completely unacceptable.
Brown car guy.
So anyway, that pretty much rounds up this belated, once again apologies, update on ULEZ and what's been going on with ULEZ. And what was that? Sorry, I can't talk about that for now. But oh yeah, something special might be coming. So stay tuned, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, keep checking back. You are not going to want to miss this. I promise you, this will be worth the wait, and it will be coming very soon. So stay tuned, keep it locked to Brown Car Guy channels. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next video.
Brown car guy.
Hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, please hit the like button and share this video as well if you can. And while you're at it, check out these guys who also sponsor my content. I am deeply grateful to them because it helps me to buy new equipment, put fuel in the cars, and yes, buy a cup of coffee. You can do the same. Just go here or right here on YouTube. Just hit these three little dots down here and click on thanks. Make sure you're signed in first. My content is free, but this is how you can help me keep it that way. I may even send you a gift. Oh, by the way, watch this next.